Good morning, Rabbi Isai. Live from Park City, Utah. Shir is available for anybody in the Utah Park City area skiing in Shiva Week. I saw a few videos of people doing siyumim. There are people on the slopes. So just know that we are here at the Jewish Collective Center. Look it up. And tomorrow's shir is going to be at 8:30 p.m. local time. So that is Wednesday, 8:30 p.m. That's the English shir. Yesterday, I was in Toronto with the Chevra. I didn't go alone. Avremi Cohen flew in special, Mark Ashkenazi, Yossi Klein, Benny Rodnick. Who else? I know I'm missing somebody. Oh, Molandi. Just to be mechazik, just to come along. Benny Rodnick, who Beis Hashem is going to be working full time for MDY, extended his ticket, the whole thing, just to be able to make it. Why did we choose Toronto? A beautiful crowd showed up there. We have a very long standing relationship with Toronto, starting 7 years ago with Mayor Planka and Aryeh Blau. I did some sort of siyum there. I think it was a siyum, yeah. I don't remember the Masechta, but like it was 4 years ago at AJ's house. And it was beautiful, beautiful. I got to see the Rosh Koil there, tremendous Talmid Chacham. He stayed through the whole shir, which was very humbling because, you know, he's a big Talmid Chacham. He has other things to do, and he sat throughout the shir. In Toronto, there are powerhouses over there. You have Tzvi Pinzel now and Jamie Azulai pushing the satellite location idea because we have to get it in Chutz La'aretz, anywhere in Chutz La'aretz, and Baruch Hashem, we have different locations, but we need to get stronger, larger, and push them. But boys, I don't forget, we just started in Mesachtes Menachos. It's not too late to bring your friends. It's not too late to get on your statuses. Shalom Rand brought, I think, 90 new people to the daf through a status. Tzvi Pinzel brought 70 plus people to the daf through a status. Shimmy J, what's the name of his status? Also, he started bringing people in. Anybody has a status. You don't have to have 50 to 100,000 people in your status. You have 1,000 people in your status, 200 people in your status. People will join if you just post your own message and put it to your status. It's not a lot of work, and it's kedai. The schusim are everlasting. So we have a few thousand people that joined us from Mesachtes Menachos, and I hope they don't mind the fact that I'm taking a tour through the United States. We're in Toronto. Now I'm in Park City. I'm going to be here for a few days. Back to the New York tri-state area, maybe even Miami. We have to see about Miami because it is Yeshiva Week and it's up in the air. Tom's River, look at this Rabbi side, the amount of people here, beautiful, beautiful. They have a very, very strong satellite location going. Be mechazik them. Williamsburg, Siyum, look at this. I love this.
So we're having here a little get-together / siyum. And one of our Williamsburg participants, he has like a promotional item company. So this is what he did. A nice notebook, MDY. It's not about what you learn, it's the effort. Keep climbing. Beautiful. A notebook and a kettle, sort of.
Cup the MDY logo there, Givaldic.
MDY symbol.
We're here live in Williamsburg in the satellite location. Good evening, Rabbi Isai.
Kol hakavod. Hollywood, Florida, Siyum. So that's the place I was going to go. Have to see. Oh, Menachem Toker. Is that Menachem Toker? No. That looks like Kobe Sella, actually. I don't know who that is. Baltimore Siyum. Very nice. They sent me in the Chicago picture also. Chicago made a Siyum. Los Angeles. Nacho and the Chevra. Yaakov Englander. Dear Rebelli, it's currently 2:25 a.m. and I'm on my way to Tel Aviv. From Tel Aviv to Yerushalayim. I'm listening to the Shir Menachos Daf Beis. You mentioned about if someone was over in Aveira, One can continue right away and complete Shabbos. Mikabel Tshuva itself is Tshuva. I just sat next to a non-religious Yid from Eretz Yisrael. He told me that he wears tefillin every day. However, to keep Shabbos, he said, that's too much. I noticed that he felt bad about it. So I told him that I believe the Chavetz Chaim. Told someone I received the email, not that the Chavetz Chaim was some Rebbe. Okay, the Hasidim will take credit for Rebbe. The Litvaks will say it's the Chavetz Chaim. Told someone but the point is that the same. Told someone that used to smoke on Shabbos that if you cut down just on one cigarette per Shabbos, is itself keeping a part of Shabbos. Somebody asked the kasha, but you see that if you're fasting, you break the fast, it's not considered at all. Mr. Sheni, I was saying that there's something called the tainus arriva, that you just leave over one piece of food on your plate, you say, I'm not going to eat the entire plate, that itself is considered some sort of tainus, the tainus of the rivet. So if you keep one part of Shabbos, I'm not saying that it's a shmir Shabbos. I mean, I'm not chas v'sholom promoting breaking Shabbos and not being shom Shabbos. I'm saying if a person has that struggle, doesn't mean that you should continue breaking Shabbos and continue struggling. That's all I said. As much as you keep, you'll get schar, whatever schar that is. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give you schar for that amount that you keep. And then I began listening to your shir and said the exact same thing. Wow, keeping Ma'ir Klai Yisrael at be as good Tzedek b'Mehera. Thank you, Yaakov Englander. Larry Jaffe. Dear Shabeli, I'm home from the Shabbat home for a few days now, and I'm still riding the high. It was the most amazing experience. I was listening to all the stories, and I realized that if it were not for MDY, I would probably never have opened up a Gemara. Now here I am, 2,200 dafim in, and looking forward to completing Shas with you. What a schos. So this individual, Larry Jaffe, only has 511 daf left. MDY has enriched my life in so many ways. Please never stop being, I guess, is that what everybody has left? I guess that's the end of Shas. Yeah, makes sense. 500 days is more than a year. Yeah. MDY has enriched my life in so many ways. Please never stop being our Magachir. May Hashem bless you in all you do. Ephraim Jaffe. Dozen cats. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to be at the Shabbaton this year, but after seeing all the pictures and videos, I got so emotional. I'm already planning to be there next year, Be'ez Hashem. I was thinking about the two pillars of MDY, Mark and Yossi. Mark Ashkenazi, who's on the computer right now, behind the scenes, always when I'm on the road, and Yossi Klein, our CEO, and how their partnership represents something so rare and beautiful. You don't even have to attend the shir. I actually saw a picture today, the two of them, and I was thinking the same thing. Mark with his type of yarmulke, and Yossi Klein with his yarmulke and his payas and beard. You don't even have to attend the shir to feel the achdus. When was the last time you saw Chassid Yid, a Sephardi? I don't know. I hope he's not talking about Mark Ashkenazi, because he's not Sephardi. He's Yeki. And a Ponovitcher working side by side with such harmony. It's truly unbelievable and inspiring. If I may add one small request, is it possible to start sending out the share by email as well? I think we do send it out in email. I don't hear a lot about it, but I know we used to. Not everyone has WhatsApp, and this could help even more people connect and join the share. Thank you for everything you're doing. You're changing lives, saving lives, building lives. Don't know where I would be without you. Thank you, Nosson Katz. Shkoyach. I love this picture because it's a candid picture. The father is watching one of the AI videos, and all his kids are clamoring around him to watch. And finally, Kosher Deluxe. Good afternoon, Rebelli. Kosher Deluxe. How can I help you? Sitting with this guy from Switzerland, I asked him if he does the daf. He said he does other learning programs like Kinyan Masechta, to which I responded, I also do Kinyan Masechta, and yet I still find time to do the daf with the Rebelli. See, that's great, because a lot of people, they tell me they do Kinyan Masechta, it kind of gets me. I'm like, okay, if you're doing Kinyan Masechta, I have nothing more to say. You're learning Torah every day, and that's great. That's all I care about. You're doing another program. But he's saying, no, I also do Kinyan Masechta. He has the right to say it. I don't have the right to say it. I do Kinyan Masechta, but I find the time to also do a daf a day and get more musagim and chas. Send him the link and told him I'll follow up with him in a week. Wanted to hear Rebelli thoughts on following up with your new recruits. 100%, 1,000%. They actually reached out to a few people today that told me that they, Shalom ran, got 90 people. I told Shalom, and I gave him a whole long shmooze how It's very, very important to get new people, but it's even more important to get them in a what's it called? To make them accountable, and in a nice way. In a way, just send out a survey. Who did the daf? Who could write done? Just one word, done. Get the ilam into it. Get the guys into it one after another. And the idea is to get them going for the first month, 2 months, until they build the real habit, which takes 60 days, 90 days. Once they're in a habit, then you could let them loose. But in the beginning, you don't want to be a nudge, but in a nice way. Looking forward to Menachos for the first time in my life. Keep the AI videos coming. Family chat loves them, and the kids. Stay tuned for a new stand to be put up in the restaurant with the help of Paris Chaim Levin and offering free fries or drink for anyone that signs up. Avigdor Weiss. I'm not telling you what to do with your money, but my feeling is just a gut feeling that fries is not going to cut it. You want to get a guy to learn Torah? You want him to commit to something that's in the beginning difficult? One thing of French fries or free drink, I think you're going to have to up your game a little bit. Now, again, it's not my money, so I can't really tell you, but just my gut tells me that somebody's not going to commit to a lifelong Daf Yomi thing for a couple of French fries for $1.50 worth of French fries. Now, you want to give him a free meal, you want to give him a free, I don't know what you serve over there. Now we're talking something else. You want to give him $30. Oh, okay, here, French fries. With lots of ahava, Avigdor Weiss, Kosher Deluxe, Midtown, New York. Clifton, listen, I don't know, maybe fries in Midtown, New York cost $30. Clifton, New Jersey, daffing since Yuma 87, but I do appreciate it. I appreciate the thought. Just maybe we'll up it a little bit, yeah? Rabbi Isai in Hollywood, we're doing a Hebrew shir. It's live at 2 p.m. New York time, Miami time. Shidur Choser at 8 o'clock at night. Wow. And on Erev Shabbos at 1 o'clock, once it's Shabbos, 9 o'clock. Yevaldik. Okay? New share watch in Queens, New York. Cool. Very cool. Like it. Oh, I wrote to myself 2 notes. It wasn't really for the island, but it's on the screen. It's a good thing I wrote it because I completely forgot. I was interviewed by the famous, world famous Yaakov Langer. He has, I think, like 2 million subscribers or something crazy, over 1 million subscribers. It's close to 2, my son said. So I was interviewed by him for a long time. It was a decent interview. I liked it. Actually, it was good. I was very, very tired. Jet lag just came off a plane. So I'm a little bit more subdued, a little bit more serious than usual. But I think it was a good interview. And people are starting to join this year because of that interview. So it's good. As long as it brings people to Torah. Go check it out on Living L'Chaim. It's on YouTube. I don't know where else. Living L'Chaim. All right. What else do we have? Oh, we have sponsors. A lot of new sponsors. Let's get used to them. The Masechta sponsor. Wait a minute. We're missing. Oh, how a businessman became a Torah Rebbe for 50,000 Jews. But Rav Eli. That's one problem I have. Yaakov, it's Reb Eli. It's not Rav Eli. I didn't tell him that, but whatever. Call him out in live. Where's David Salomon? Mark, we got to throw in David Salomon. He got lost somewhere. The Masechta is sponsored by Joel Gedalis, Leonish Mas, my father, Jack Gedalis. Anonymous, Hatzloch Baruch Nizvigashmi. So these are all Masechta sponsors, $9,000 per one of these. Yishkoyach to all of them. Hatzloch Baruch Nizvigashmi. Sender Gross and family, Canvey Island, UK. In honor of Rebelli, who changed my meaning of life. Thank you. Eli Ashir, Refuah Shlema LaMoshe ben Nizia. Anonymous, for a complete refuah shlema and arichas yom to Leah Bas Esther Amen Yisrael Malki. Toivli Toiras Picha Me'alfei Zahav V'Chesef. We're so proud of you, Yaakov Mordechai. Keep steiging. Pliny Almoni, Yossi, Mark, and Benny, and all the Oiskim B'Tzorchi Tzibur, Oiskim B'Tzorchi MDY, Hakadosh Baruch Hu Yishalem Secharam. This Pliny Almighty spent $9,000. I love Pliny Almighty. He's the Pliny, I'm the Almighty. We're very similar in a lot of different ways. Yossi, Mark, and Benny, and all the Oiskim, B'tzorchi, MDY, Kushbon Shalom Scharim. Shkoyach. Oh, Masech sponsor David Salomon dedicated in memory of Avimari Reb Shmuel Baruch Ben Reb Chaim Tzvi Doi Zuchron Levracha. It was beautiful that David Salomon, who said he's not coming to the Shabbaton, and he told me again he's not coming, and he wasn't going to come, and at the last minute he came with his two sons, and he says next year he's coming with his whole mishpacha and his wife, and he'll stay even for the Melava Malka. Ari Simon Refuah Shlema Avimari Baruch Ben Miriam. Jamie Azulai Refuah Shlema Esther Bas Nuna. Thank you, Jamie. He hosted us. He got a caterer to come to his house. Phenomenal caterer. Great food in Toronto last night. Shkoyach, Esther Walkenstein, Mazel Tov to my husband, Kalman Nathaniel Walkenstein on his 40th birthday. Ananas Brocha V'Lidai Baruch Tzvi Ben Shoshana Leah Yehuda Ben Yom Ben Chava. Anonymous, L'Fush Neiman Naftali Hezben Henya Leah, a hidden tzaddik in our generation. Anonymous in memory of Mazel Bat Leah, Besanada, and Hiskia. Anonymous, l'schus, a verdict that is good and open and revealed way for Yosef Mordechai ben Batya Leah, Amen. Weekly sponsors was Hempstead Chaver in memory of our beloved Mordechai Asra, Rav Yehuda Kellemer Zechet Rocha upon his fifth yard site. Anonymous has a schus for successful fertility treatment, among other things. A bunch of people came to me and asked me, and I feel very uncomfortable every single time, but they asked me for a bracha, b'schus HaTorah, for fertility. And it's a thing that a lot of people struggle, and it's a very, very difficult struggle. Yisrael Goldstein giving a bracha on my birthday to Moiri Verabi. Hashem should give you koyach and the moyach to continue with your avodas Hashem. I'm still an emotional wreck. What he means is the emotions that we went through on Shabbos were so overwhelming that it literally causes pain to the brain. It's like it drains your whole brain. That itself makes you weak. To see Yisrael Goldstein with his camera taking pictures, and all of a sudden the camera just drops, and he's crying, bawling from emotion. In the way art, anonymous says Ben Chai sorry for Parnas Berevach, Refushnem Yonatan Tanitim Ben Beshav Brachel, Refushnem Mordechai Ben Esther, Refus Ayel Daniel Zeb Ben Ayel Tester. Rabbi Sai, here we go. We are in the second day of Menachos. Today we have an easy daf. Most of the daf is going to be discussing this idea that we learned yesterday, that according to Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, and Rabbah explains Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, that Reb Shimon Bar Yochai goes with time of the Kra, let me look into the reasoning behind what the Torah says. And when you could tell that what a person is doing is false, it's shtusim, we ignore what he's saying and doing. When a person is saying that he's bringing a flat mincha, but in fact he's bringing a very thick, soft one, so we just ignore him. We say, okay, he said it, but he didn't mean it. And therefore it doesn't ruin it. Whereas when you're doing a karban, you can't tell, because every shechita looks the same, and every Kabbalah Saddam looks the same, every Zrika looks the same. So when a person tells you that I had a mind to bring an oila instead of a shlamim, that ruins the karban in a way. But by mincha it doesn't. So basically, what we're going to be doing today is going through a lot of different cases. Let me throw an example. A karban pesach we know is a little sheep, less than a year old. So if a person shows up to the Beis Hamikdash with a cow, and he brings a karban pesach with a cow, so you say the guy is crazy. The guy, he didn't mean it to be a karban pesach, so it's a joke. Ignore him. You know what I'm saying? So when it's very clear that what the person is saying and doing are so different and they're opposites, then his actions speak louder than words, and therefore his actions are what count, not the words. Does that hold true to everything? And that's where we're going to go through different cases. What if you bring an animal? Another example. What if I'm supposed to bring a 1-year-old animal and I bring a 2-year-old animal? Are those actions that speak louder than words? Or perhaps people don't really know the difference between What if I was supposed to bring a male because all oilas are male, and you brought a female? What if I was supposed to bring a female because all chatas are female, most, and I brought a male? Is that an action that speaks louder than words? And that's today's sugya. Like I said, easier stuff today. And here's wow. All I could say is wow. Emotional, mamish, emotional shamas on all levels. Great picture. Shkoyach, Mark. Zok the Gemara. We're holding 10 lines from the bottom of Beis, Amud Beis. Simon, great. Now I have some tears in my eyes. Simon, Oila, Malak, Umitza. These are all the different questions that we're going to bring on this idea of actions speak louder than words. El as says the Gemara. Okay, so for this we need to explain a little bit. And here it goes. There are two types of birds that we bring in the Beis Hamikdash: a pigeon and a dove. We bring a oilas ha'oif and chatas ha'oif. That's it. There's no shlamim oif, there's no toida oif, etc. There's only two, a chatas and an oila. There's no shechita on a bird, although today we shech chickens with a knife, not in the Beis Hamikdash. For that we do melika. This is what melika would look like. It's the nail of the thumb, goes from the back of the neck, and that's how we kill the bird. It's not a shechita, it's called a melika. Now what do? There's something called hazah and something called mitzui. Hazah is when you take the bird and you shake it. You don't touch the mizbeach, you throw the bird, sort of a throwing motion with your right hand towards the mizbeach, and the blood from the neck goes flying onto the mizbeach. That's hazah. Mitzui is when you take the bird and you kvetch it on the wall of the mizbeach. You squeeze it onto the wall. Let's see how that looks. That's mitzui. Now notice, the kohen is standing above the red line. There's a red line on the mizbeach. It's called the chut hasikra. He's standing above the red line. That indicates to us that this is an oila bird, because an oila bird goes above the red line. There's only one other carbon that goes above the red line, and that's a chatos animal. Everything else goes below the red line. So if it's a chatos bird, it would go below the red line. An oila bird, all you do is mitzui. A chatos bird, you do both. You do hazah, and then you do mitzui. You sprinkle it, and then you do this. Let's see. And you'll notice here, he's standing below the red line, and he tosses the bird towards the mizbeach. The blood comes flying out and hits the mizbeach. That's called hazah. What the Gemara is going to do now is say, look, from the fact that he's doing it above the red line indicates to me that he's doing an oila. Or from the fact that he's doing mitzui, or let's say hazah is only for a chatos. So that would indicate to me that he's doing a chatos. So if you say action, speak louder than words, so his action is showing us whether it's an oila or a chatos, depending on where he's standing or what he's doing. Is it a hazah or a mitzui? I'll know whether it's an oila or a chatos. Again, a oila, there's only mitzui. A chatos has hazah, which is the sprinkle, and then mitzui, which is the squeeze. Has both. So let's see inside. If so, now if you take an oila bird and you say it's a chatas bird, but you're above the red line, the fact that you're standing in a place that only is reserved for an oila, so that tells me that it's an oila. The fact that you said that you're doing a chatos means nothing to me. You made a mistake. You misspoke. Your action of being above the red line is louder than the words that you spoke. Teratza, and it should be a good bird. Why? The fact that you're standing above the red line proves to me that you're being makriv, a bird, not a chatas bird. Because if it was a chatas bird, he would be standing like in this picture below the red line. Says the Gemara, no, that's not a raya. What, you can't perform the malika above the red line? We learned, if you perform the malika with your thumb, you kill the bird with your thumb above the red line, even though it's a chatas, it's kosher. So just the fact that he's standing above the red line doesn't tell me that's an oila. It could be a chatas as well. Oila soiv shemitza. So now the Gemara asks the other question, which I kind of prefaced. If you're doing an oila bird, but you did mitzui, which is squeezing above the red line, and you said to yourself that you're doing a chatas, it should be good. Why? Your actions prove what you're doing. I'm proving that you're doing an oila. Because if it was the chatas bird, where do you do the mitzui of a chatas? You do below the red line. So first of all, two problems here. First of all, it will be below the red line. Second of all, you do the tossing, the throwing, not the squeezing. First, you do the throwing. So says the Gemara, Amri, because people are going to say, Dilma mitzui the basar hazo. Maybe what you just noticed was the squeezing of the neck of the bird after he already performed the hazah. In other words, people, from your action is not conclusive. Because yes, you squeeze the bird, but by chatas you're supposed to squeeze after you toss it. First you do hazah, then you do mitzui. So now I caught you doing mitzui above the red line. It doesn't mean it's an oila, perhaps it's the chatas, and I'm doing the mitzui after the hazah. Because we learned Daf Gimel Amud Aleph on top, mitzvah dama b'chol magam b'mizbeach shira. If you do mitzvah adam anywhere above the red line as well, it's also kosher. Why? Because the main part of the chatos is the hazah, the sprinkling, not the mitzvah. So asking Gemara a third question, chatos hoiv shehiz adam alamato l'shem olas hoiv teratzo. What about the reverse? You take a chatos bird and you say that it's an oila bird, and you do hazah. Now hazah is reserved only for a chatas, not for an oila. Because I can prove to you that by the fact that he did hazah, that it's a chatas and not an oila. The oila soifi, because if it was an oila, lemala havavidla, he would do it above the red line. That's number one. And number two, umitza havavidla, he wouldn't do hazah. You don't do hazah for oila bird. You only do mitzvah. You only do the squeeze. Says the Gemara. Now the Gemara gives in on this case. Hachinami, you're right. Einachanami. That case, that you took a chatas bird and you said it's an oila bird. And you did mitzvah. Sorry, you did hazah. You took a chatas bird. You did hazah. It's obvious that it's a chatas bird. Elo. But what? What we were saying is that the mincha, you could see the actions speak louder than the words by a mincha, and not by animals. But by birds, yes. You could tell from the action of a bird. I apologize, drink from the bottle. Says the Gemara, now, another question. So So here's the Mizbeach. Here's a picture of the Mizbeach. Let's see if I can zoom in on the Mizbeach here. This guy right over here, that's Mizbeach HaChitzah. Now, where the Mizbeach finishes, you can see the ramp of the Mizbeach. That's the southern part of the Mizbeach. And then you have this square on top. Let me see if I can get, I don't know if this is going to work. Laser, here we go. Yeah, it doesn't work when it's, this area right over here and above, this whole area is the northern part of the Azara. In other words, this line right over here, which is the end of the Mizbeach, and upwards is north. From this area down over here, that's south. All Kachi Kachim. Now let's go to the list of Kachi Kachim. Kachi Kachim is a Chatas, an Asham, Shalmi Tzibur. What else? Oila. Chatas Asham Oila. Kachi Kachim. They must be shechted above the red line, above in the northern part of the Azar, not in the southern part. All Kachim Kalim can be shechted even in the south. It's hard to understand the Gemara's question, really. The Gemara is saying, well, from the fact that you did it in the south, is the charaya that it's Kachim Kalim. But no, Kachim Kalim you could do it in the north as well. You could also do it in the south. So that's the Gemara's answer. Kachim Kachim. Sheshachtim B'tzav L'Shem Kachim Kalim L'Ratzu. If you take an achatas, an asham, an oila, and you shecht it. So here you can see, you shecht it in the green box, but you have in mind that it should be a shlamim. Let's say take an oila, which belongs only in the green box. And you say it's a shlamim, it's obvious from your actions that you're shechting an oila, not a shlamim. Why? The kachim kalam, because if it was kachim kalam, the dharma have avid, you checked it in the south. So it seems from Taisvas that typically speaking, they would always shecht these korbanos in the south. If they had an emergency and there was not enough room, then they would also shecht it in the north. So that was the Gemara's Havamina, that you could see from his action that it's a kachim, not a kachim kalam, from the fact that they shecht it in the north, not in the south. Says Gemara, the Torah said that you could shecht the kachim kalam also in the south, not only in the south. So you could shecht in the green box as well. So the fact that you shecht in the green box doesn't tell me that it's kachim and not kachim kalam. This, and I'll prove it. This is the Mishnah. You could shecht it anywhere in the Azara. Oh, so now another question. What if I take kachim kalam? My voice is still shot from Shabbos, by the way. What if you take a shlamim, a toida nazar b'char meiser, and you shecht it in the south? Now it's impossible to say that he shechted a kachim there, because for sure you cannot take an oila or a chatas and shecht it in the south. Those are reserved only to the north. But he said that he's shechting it l'shem oila. He takes a shlamim and he says, but I'm shechting it for an oila. Now we have a situation where his actions prove that it's not an oila, because he wouldn't shecht an oila in the south. Why? You can prove from his actions that it must be that he's really shechting a shlamim, and he just misspoke and he said that it's oila. The kachim itself and have a if it was an oila, he would only shecht it in the north. Amri. Gemara, no. Now the Gemara goes to something brand new. Amri, kachim ninu. It's in fact kachim. And he was over. Yes, he took an oila and he was over. So now this opens up a box of worms, so to speak. Why? Because once we go that route and we say, oh, a person can be over. So actions don't speak louder than words. Sometimes you take an action and you're being over an isser. So then the same thing would apply to the mincha that we spoke about yesterday. If he's trying to do a thick, soft mincha, so what if he said that it's a thin, hard mincha? Actions speak louder than words. But maybe no, maybe he's being over. Yachi machvas l'shem marcheshes. So if a person makes a machvas, so here, let's see what a machvas looks like. We have something new today. This is machvas marcheshes. The top one is marcheshes. The bottom one is machvas. It's thinner. But here, this is a little bit better. Marcheshes on the right, thicker, comes out softer. Same amount of ingredients, put a larger pot. And because it's a thinner frying pan, so to speak, so it becomes thicker and harder. Machvas l'shem marcheshes nami, we should say the same thing. Haidika comments lili marcheshes. The fact that he said in his mind that it's the thicker one, Omar hayber marcheshes nadar, or the ma'isel machvas b'der marcheshesi uma'aber u'davar. He's being over. That's the machvas, and he wants to bring it in a frying pan. Says Gemara Hasam, Kinabi Marcheshes Nadar. You're right, since he said his nether was he's going to bring a Marcheshes, Ki Maisla b'machvas machvas havio. Once he changes it and he brings it in a machvas, it turns into machvas. Because now we learned, if he says, I want to bring a machvas, but he brought it in the marcheshes, he said, I want to bring a marcheshes, but the fact is that he brought it in a frying pan, in a machvas. It changes it physically, and memela, he has to rebring it. As Gemara V'dilma Amar Zu. Once he says the word Zu, similar to what we said yesterday, by a neder and a nedava, the nedava means he says Zu, and he's saying this flour specifically. So now it doesn't change. V'dilma Amar Zu. You take out these words, Lahavi b'machvas v'hevi b'marcheshes. The Kilisnan. Zu, Lahavi b'machvas v'hevi b'marcheshes. He says, I want this flour to be a machvas, but at the end of the day, he brought it in a marcheshes. B'marcheshes v'hevi b'machvas, harei psula. So perhaps he said Zu. So it says the Gemara, L'Rabbanan Achanami. You're right according to Rabbanan. However, the Reb Shimon, even though Reb Shimon Afi de Nidri Yatza, Reb Shimon says that he is Yaitze. Al Mekfiyus the Mana V'Lei Klumu. What you say with your mouth and saying, oh, I want it to be something else, but the fact is you're doing A, but you say you want it to be B, his mouth doesn't do anything. V'Lei Klumu. It doesn't matter what he says, what word he uses, even if he uses the word zu, it doesn't change anything. Says the Gemara, so we're continuing, we're still probing, we're still pushing, and at the end of the day, we're going to see there are certain things that action speak louder than words, even in Korbanos. If you take an oila is supposed to be male, and you say that it's a chatos, which is always female, not always, but it's supposed to be female. Teratza. Why? Oila is always a male, and chatos is supposed to be female. Says Gemara now, since there's a chatos that the nasi brings, but that particular chatos is a zachar. So it's not 100% that what you're bringing here, the zachar is ayla, because there is a chatas that is a zachar. No idea. Whether or not the nasi has to be there or not be there, it seems like from the sugya, the fact that there is a possibility and somebody standing from the side would be confused, then it's not an action that speaks louder than words. Omer l'shem chatos. So now the Gemara keeps on going, keeps on pushing. But there is a chatos that's guaranteed to be a female, and you cannot say that it's a nasi. Why? Because Omer l'shem chatos yached, the individual chatos, not the nasis. Michael Meimar. What are you going to say then? V'suhu chatos yached sheshachta l'shem oila. The answer. What about the reverse? What if you took a chatos, which is a female, and you said it should be an oila? An oila is always a male. So it can't be an oila. It must be a chatas. So your actions are speaking louder than words. So you're going to tell me in that case, it's a good chatas. The chatas in keva oila zocher. Says Gemara Mikasi Ba'aliyah. Talking about sheep. And sheep, traditionally, unless they change it, because in our generation, they cut it off, almost like a Doberman pinscher, but a true, an original sheep looks something like this. They have very, very large tails, and you cannot tell whether it's a male or a female. And that's considered like the fattiest part of the sheep, very, very choshev to eat. That's great if you're bringing a sheep, so you have this kind of excuse or reason to not know the difference between a zachar and a keva. But what if you brought a goat? How would you know that you should know the difference? But to differentiate between when you see a dog in a park and somebody asks you 2 minutes later, was it a male or a female? Usually you don't really pay attention to that. It's not something that's on your mind. If you want, you could do this at a Shavuot Brachas. You say, there's once a guy that wanted a brain transplant. So he went to the doctor, and the doctor said, look, I have 2 brains here that are available. One is a male and one is a female brain. So the guy says, and what's the difference in price? He says, the female brain is $200. The male brain is $100,000. So when you say that, everybody in the Shavuot, like the women, they get very insulted. And then you just continue to say, because the female brain is very used, the male brain is unused. Zog the Gemara, Pesach sheshchatoi l'shem mosham l'ratzi. A korban Pesach. What do you have here? Oh, I forgot to show. I wanted to show this Rashi before. It's too late now. I like this Rashi. Rashi says, "Vikashia gavi chatos." I'll just read it here. Gavi chatos hoif l'shana leihachi. Get into it. Okay, it's already Sregim after Sukkot, so we'll just continue weiter. And I had a little follow up on the Rashi with the. Okay, different time. Zog the Gemara. Pesach shachtoi l'shem asham. A korban Pesach that you flipped, and that was the first mission of Masechet Zvachim, that on a korban Pesach, if you flip the designation from a korban Pesach to any other korban, you toss that korban in the garbage. Pesach and Chatas, you toss in the garbage. Other korbanos, you keep on bringing it. The owner has to bring another korban, but it's not possible. A korban Pesach is very sensitive, becomes possible. So if you said that's not a korban Pesach, but it's a korban Asham, why throw it out? It's obvious that you meant to bring a korban Pesach. Why? Because the age difference. A korban Pesach has to be less than a year old, and an Asham has to be in the second year, from the second year on. If a person said he's going to refrain from drinking wine and grow his hair, not be mitamel mace for 30 days typically, and during those 30 days he touched a mace, so he has to bring an asham mitzayra. A nazir, that's a nazir. Asham mitzayra is a person who has tzaras, so he has to bring a korban mitzayra. An asham. Now these are younger ones. These are sheep that are a year old. So it's hard to tell. You're asking me if it's a korban Pesach and it's supposed to be a year. There's also Asham that is a year old. But what about he takes a korban Pesach and he says this should be for swearing falsely on Gezel. And if somebody's moyel, meaning he takes something from the Beis Hamikdash and he uses it, he has to pay 25% fine, plus he has to bring a carbon. It's 25. The Torah says it's a chaimish, meaning 20%, but that's melagav. In English, it's called 25%. Plus a carbon. Michael Meimar, he says it's a carbon pesach, but he says, I want to bring in fresh Ham Gzelos. Now it has to be a 2-year-old, and it's obvious. Besu Hashem Gzelos, Hashem Yidus, Shachtam. Shum Pesach, the Ratzu, the Pesach Ben Shana, Bani Ben Shtei Shanim. Again, I could tell from how old it is what kind of carbon I'm bringing for. It says Gemara, Ben Shana, Ben Shtei Shanim, Lava Tayu Dinchi. People don't realize the difference between sheep, how old they are. Oh yeah, this is a 2-year-old sheep. No, it's a 1. We're not such mumchim in sheep to differentiate and make a whole big deal about it. So here we have a beautiful video of how the different ages of sheep is not something that we pay attention to. Maybe sheep, even the sheep themselves sometimes think it's funny. The Ashim is still there, smoking away. I thought in our Masechta, we're not going to have him anymore.
Young boy, please stand up and give the seat to the man who is studying the daily Talmud page.
I am not a man, I am a woman.
Show some respect. I am not a young boy, I am an older man. I could be your grandfather.
Gewaldige stuff. Great. Says Gemara. Elo ben shana le ben shtei shanim lavat tavdin shedi ke ben shana de mersi. Kiben. Sometimes you have a 1-year-old that looks like kiben shtayim. V'kiben shtayim de mersi ben shana. That was my father's trick. I was 10 years old and he put me in high school because in Eretz Yisrael, and I went to Tivrach when I was like 10 and a half years old because I was very tall, and he figured nobody will realize that I'm not bar mitzvah. The only thing is, like, I didn't have tefillin or anything. At least they weren't rapping, says Mark Ashkenazi. So the guy that sent me that beautiful email about our last video in Masechet Zvachim with the sheep rapping, someone who's very upset about the whole rap. Rap is aser. Okay, listen, each to their own. I call upon him. Some kids look older than they are. Like, and I know in Israel when they try to catch store owners selling cigarettes to minors, so they always bring like a 17-year-old that looks like he's 26, and they send them in, and the store owner doesn't ask for ID, and they say, "Why didn't you ask for ID?" So he says, "Look, he's 26." No, he's only 17, and then they give him a huge fine. So you never know. The 2-year-olds look like 1-year-olds, 1-year-olds, like 2-year-olds. It's not something that people readily differentiate. Now, just as a side note, there are young people, I guess it's normal for young people to think that they're older and older people to think that they're younger. So both of those things are not the best. Like when a young person thinks that he's older and it's too late or whatever, that kind of thing, it's a very negative machshava. But I was just discussing the other day, and I said it in Shir. It shocked me. I met an older fellow. He's in his 60s. He wasn't very healthy. And he was speaking as if he's, 15, 20 years old. And that he has this tremendous life ahead of him. And I'm thinking to myself, you got to be realistic. You don't live forever, especially you're not taking care of yourself. I don't know how long you're going to live. Why do you think that you're going to live so long? We're only here for a very, very short amount of time, as is. And you're already in your 60s. You got to get your life together. You got to You got to produce. You got to start learning some Torah, my friend. 10 minutes a day is not going to cut it. Another question. What about a goat that you shechted for an asham? Now, asham, you need a sheep. Asham is only a sheep. So if you bring a goat, it's obvious that you didn't bring it as an asham. Says Gemara, no. Amri dichra ukmahu. Maybe it's a sheep that's black. Interesting. In other words, it's not a goat. People don't realize it's a goat. Think that maybe the sheep got a haircut, says Rashi. And therefore it's black. So what's pshat? Well, what's pshat? What do you mean? You take a sheep, you give it a haircut, it turns black? Here, I have pshat for you. You want to see pshat? This is mamish for pshat. This is not for a joke. Somehow, sheep could look like a goat after you give it a haircut, says Rashi. Egel parish shachlim. We got to pick up some pace here because we have the whole amount of days and we only have like 10 minutes. Egel parish shachlim shum pesach. What if you brought a calf and a bull for a carbon pesach? Everybody knows a carbon pesach has to be a sheep or a smaller animal, not a big giant animal. Shum pesach v'ashim l'ratzu. Egel parish pesach v'ashim leka. There is no such thing. Says Gemara Nechanami, you're right, you got me. In that one, you got me. Daf Gimel and Beis. Umay zvachim, reis vachim. What the Gemara said is that in a mincha you can differentiate, but not in karbanos. I didn't mean all karbanos. I meant most. There is an exception to the rule, and that would be if somebody brought a bull for a karban pesach. That would be obvious that he did not mean to bring it as a karban pesach. Now, we're going back to the question. We had a contradiction in Reb Shimon Bar Yochai. Shimon Bar Yochai says, on the one hand, he says that if you bring a mincha and you think that it's a marcheshes instead of machvas, that you are yotzei. On the other hand, he says you're not yotzei. And we had this yesterday, so we could even go quicker than usual. Where do we say that it's kosher? That he said that the machvas should be a marcheshes. But he was doing it with intent for mincha. Mincha is marcheshes. Mincha is machmas. Where's the puzzle? We thought that he's bringing a carbon, like he's saying that this is not a mincha. This bread over here is an oila. Bring it as a carbon. I think Gemara explains mincha l'shum mincha. This is a pasuk that says this is the Torah of all the menachos. Torah achas the kol menachos. So if I get confused between mincha and mincha, it's okay. I'm still kosher. I'm still within a mincha. I said a machvas instead of marcheshes. The Torah says they're all considered one. Torah achas the kol menachos. Mincha l'shum zevach. But if I try to switch it off to a carbon, because this Torah is a mincha, v'zevach lo yiksev. The carbon is not included over there. Says Gemara, Vatana, Mabnish Masem, Chichim Oleo Ka'amar. Rabbi Shimon says not because it says Torah Achas, but because I could prove from the action. Hagei Gamar, Afagav the Machshava, Deloy Minkara. So Rashi explains that the word Deloy is really it's not Deloy, it's Minkara. Avagav he explains why it says Deloy, but Avagav the Machshava, we could even read it. Avagav the Machshava, you could see from his action, it's nicker. It is obvious what he meant. Even the apostle, v'zois Torah mincha. So that's why the Torah says v'zois Torah mincha. That's kosher. Torah achas kol menachos. What does it mean that you don't have this by the korbanos. Adarabah, this is a reason why it should be kosher. So even though there's one shchita for everyone, and there's no concern that maybe people get confused and they'll say that you're allowed to mix things up. This halacha only applies to a mincha and not to a korban. Another question, Rabbi Yisrael. A person who ate chelav, he ate forbidden fats, but he brought a korban chatos as if he ate blood. This is kind of a gross video, so if you don't like blood, I would not recommend watching.
The men grab a strong young cow and tie a tourniquet around its neck to find a vein. A special arrow is used, one to only make a small incision, so not to permanently harm the cow. A dried and smoked gourd, called a calabash, is used to collect the blood. Then cow dung is rubbed onto the cut to seal it.
And then they drink it. Okay. Bekitzer, Shem Yerachim. So if a person drinks blood, he has to bring a chatas. But he thought that he's bringing a chatas for chelev, or the reverse, chelev for dam, shum chatas avad zara. Or he brought the chatas for avad zara, shum chatas nazir, thinking that it's a chatas nazir, shum chatas mitzayra. Take share of it to ratzo. Dom rachmanav is Torah chatas based on what you're telling me that if the Torah says Torah chatas, you have one Torah, one halacha for all chatos, so there's no mixing up. Torah the kol chatos. The Shimon says the Gemara, Achanam, you're right. According to Shimon, that would be the halacha. You'd be right. So Rabbanon, Rav chatas chedesh chatas shim chatas dam shum chatas avad zara. That if you mix up shera, in that why is it kosher? There are one category of karas. If you drink blood, chelev karas. Shimchadas nazir, shimchadas mitzayra, psula. But the other chatos, if you mix it up, then it's possible. Why? Dani oil is ba'dayaninu, mitzayra, and the nazir. They bring other karbanos with it, oil, and people are going to get confused. They're going to think that you brought this chatos for an oil. Ragver the rov masalei, the kula psula. All these chatos that we just mentioned, if it's chatas dam, chatas chelev, if you mix it up, possible. Why? Because it says in the pasuk that when you shecht it should be for that chatos. L'shem oisei chatos. You have to have in mind for the right chatos. Rav Ashi Amar li kasha. Now, this contradiction that we have between Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, in the one hand he says that if you mix up a mincha, you're yaitza. On the other hand he says you're not yaitza li kasha. Kam b'koimetz machvas shumar cheshes. Kam b'koimetz minchas machvas shum minchas macheshes. We had this yesterday. If you say that it's a frying pan instead of a deep dish, that's not a problem. But when you say that it's a mincha of a machvas, that's a problem. Minchas machvas, the shum minchas, sticking the word mincha, that ruins it. Machvas shum macheshes, b'marka machashes, u'machshav mona le'basel. If you're just verbalizing what you're doing, not in terms of the mincha, in terms of the type of dish, that doesn't make a difference. But minchas machvas, shmichas macheshes, the mincha, the puzzle of machshava kamachashev, you're doing a mincha that's different. That's already a problem. Whatever Shimon says that you could see from the action. So once again, we have the issue: is it loy minkar or it's minkar? Even though it all looks the same, since you had a different thought in the actual carbon, that actually passes it. Omerli Ravacha, do I have to stop? It's already an hour. Only Rav Bereda, let's just do a few more lines. Only Rav Bereda, the Rav or Rav Ashi, Charev l'shem blula. If a person takes a dry mincha, minchas chareva, dry without oil, and he did it with the intent. Here's a nice kmitz, so he did it with intent that it's bubble, that it has oil. Amai Omer Shimon. Why is it kosher? Because what he meant is that it's, Rashi says, divrei ruach. He's saying shtosim. It's like, oh, it's without oil. Maybe when a person said, I'm bringing this oil for shlamim, he didn't mean shlamim the carbon. Maybe he meant shalom, peace with Hashem. I'm making peace with Hashem. Says Gemara, no, a carbon is called shlamim. There is something called shlamim. So when a person verbalizes the word shlamim, he actually means a carbon. The siva makir is dam hashlamim. Hazorik is dam hashlamim. So the Torah calls it shlamim. So when you say shlamim, that's what you meant. You meant the carbon. But the mincha is never called a balul, a mixed one with oil. Blula b'shemen ikra blula. Stamala ikra blula ikra. It says in the pasuk a mincha that is mixed with oil, but it's not called a balul. Blula stamala ikra. A mincha by itself is not called a balul mincha. If it has oil in it, it's a mincha with oil. Rabbi Sai, have a wonderful day.
Merit the schus of spreading Torah throughout the world. Sponsor a shir today. MDYsponsor.com or sponsor at MDYDaf.com.